Good afternoon. It helps if I actually take that down, doesn't it? Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Quickbooks Labs. Quickbooks Labs has evolved, as we said last time, so now we're going to be taking back that feedback, looking into how to improve it, and hopefully you'll find that the new format has everything you've wanted. It's designed to be the place to learn all about the world of QuickBooks and other accounting software, and we've gathered the best experts in the field to give you that chance to be able to listen to what their views are going to be. We also have the opportunity now as well to take some questions as well. So if you are live, make sure you drop those questions during the show. And we still aim to be the first Wednesday of each month, at which point we hang around these microphones to talk about the latest news, tips and tricks for QuickBooks and the world of accountancy. And we have quite a bit to talk about today. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Patrick, a chartered accountant, owner of an accounting firm called Bofix, a QuickBooks certified UK trainer, fancy new logo, and that QuickBooks chap on YouTube. And joining me is a panel of experts. I'm going to let them introduce one by one. Johan, you want to go first?
Yeah, afternoon, everyone. My name's Johan. I'm the Group Managing Director of the On Point Accounting Group and QuickBooks Strategic Partner.
Fantastic and great to have you with us. Charlie, do you want to go now?
Yeah, hi, I'm Charlie Khan. I have a small practice in West London and also a group on Facebook for QuickBooks Pro Advisors.
Awesome. Looking forward to listening to what you guys have to bring to the conversation. So first of all, let's go through the boring stuff. So make sure we all know what's going on here. So first of all, we are live to the world at our regular time of 4:30 UK, which I believe is still 10:30 US time, but don't quote me on that one. So if you listen back at a later time, why not think about joining us live? That way you get to be involved with the show and ask us anything using the chat box. And that gives us a chance to ask those questions as you need them. Furthermore, we are now live on the podcasting services around the globe, so feel free to subscribe on the podcasting service of your choice. We've got a quick run through of the agenda to go through, so a bit of an update on how recertification went. Now that's all finished. There's two quick little updates to QuickBooks themselves, which I'm going to show on screen for us all. We've got an update on emails and how that's going in the world of QuickBooks, exception reports and a VAT issue, QuickBooks dashboard, rehash of the business network, and QBO Beetson. And then finally at the end, we're going to have a new segment of the show, the roundtable discussion, where we've got a topic that we're going to bring and discuss accordingly. So let's jump straight into it then. Recertification. As you may or may not be aware, recertification closed on the 31st of July for anyone who was looking to become Pro Advisor or at least recertify as a Pro Advisor. I'm going to go around the table first and have a chat with everyone. So how did you find the recertification for 2021? Charlie, you want to go first?
Well, I was very, very slow this year. I'm normally not too bad. Well, I say normally, last year was the first time to recertify, wasn't it? But I was relatively early last time, not early enough to get any nice little prizes, but within a couple of days. This time I left it, I think, about 2 days before the deadline, which was very, very bad of me. Greatly helped by your fantastic video, Erin, that explained how explained all the new features.
Glad one person watched it then.
No, that was brilliant. I was really good because it highlights a lot of things. There are things that I don't tend to use. So, for example, I pretty much never use the app on the mobile phone. So the questions relating to that, I mean, I'd probably worked most of them out, but it was useful to see that. And there were one or two other things. I can't remember what CIS may have come into it. I can't remember. And I don't have any clients with CIS. So there are a few things that I don't use that your videos were helpful with. But so I got there eventually. It wasn't too difficult, but I definitely won't leave it that late next time.
Brilliant. Overall, a positive experience. And yeah, I can see just in the back there, I can see you're one of the lucky few. So how was it for your end? It must have been great.
I did mine on the bus. I think it went live around 10:30, 11 o'clock. I was done by on the bus, taking it nice and casual. The handouts, though, the PDFs for the open textbook side of things, they were really well done.
Yeah.
They made life really easy and really simple. You couldn't really not get 100%, he says. About testing the whole audience, with those handouts, you would struggle to not pass the tests.
Good. I'll pass that feedback on as well to Katie and the team, because I know they spend a lot of time putting those handouts together. Just a bit of word of warning, though, just to give you people in the background, and maybe it won't be the same last year, but it definitely was the case this year. If you failed to recertify by that 31st of July 2022 deadline, then you would have been barred actually, and found it really difficult to get yourself certified, or at least become, go back and do another certification, so core or advanced, because you're actually barred from doing it at that point in time. So it really does make sense then next time round just to make sure you don't miss that recertification window. As Johan said, you can do it on the bus if you need to, or as Charlie did, just leave it to the very last second. But either way,
no, not a good idea. I would just point out you just slight audio typo. You said 31st July. I think you meant 30th of June.
Oh, of course, yeah, 30th of June, wasn't it? Yeah. Good point there. So yeah, do make sure you do that, because I know we've had a few kind of issues with our internal staff where they've not been able to get themselves sorted in time, and now they're kind of in limbo. So yeah, do make sure you get those recertification done, and then you get to keep your accreditation as needed. Next one then is just two really small updates that have happened in QuickBooks Online. It has been quite a quiet time, so we aren't expecting to see lots and lots of stuff. We were talking off camera about how we do think that there's going to be some announcements sooner, hopefully, and we think that's going to be the reason why it's a little bit quieter now, but nonetheless, let's just quickly share a screen, and what I want to show you is a really small update. What kind of helped me with this is one of the updates that we brought into the recertification, and I did the video of, and I did the webinars of, and everything else. And then just as they closed the recertification, and thankfully before recertification came in, they then changed it. So during recertification, we were showing you how that if you go in and edit your management reports, then you did have the option under advanced to then change down here how you were actually be able to show those management reports and make sure that they were all in the right order. Because if you had lots and lots and lots of pages, what you didn't want to have to do is delete them and try and put them in everything else. Now they've moved the place, so it's not now in advance, it's now under the report section itself, and gives you the chance to move them around here, which is probably a better place to put them, in honesty. I think it does make a lot of sense that they're there, but just be aware that if you're looking to move your reports around and get them in the order that you want them, you now can only do them from the reports page, which technically means your primary pages and your end notes and all that sort of stuff you can't move as you've done before. Anyone actually use found that useful when that was introduced? Anyone kind of any comments on if it's better or worse in this format?
I think it's more user friendly. I think it's more of a natural wizardy flow that you'd come to expect from any of these step-by-step processes. It makes more sense that it's where the reports are. Right, let's reorder the reports. I'd argue you preliminary and then note pages should always be at the start and finish anyway. So yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I'd agree. It's more intuitive, which is always important.
Yeah, it's going to be easier for people to find, isn't it, ultimately? I must admit the amount of times that people were kind of shocked to find that under the advanced button there was an option there to reorder your pages was quite significant. So yeah, it's good to see that there's updated, and thankfully not before the end of the recertification. Otherwise, those videos would have looked rather out of date already. The next one is a really small update again, but it is interesting to see what's going to happen going forward. So I'm on a trial balance like here. I jump into an account as I would normally do to start drilling down into it, and suddenly we've got a new little button at the top here, which at the moment doesn't do anything, but as we can imagine is going to give us the option later down the line to be able to move between different accounts. What do people think about that? I can't imagine anyone's going to be negative about it.
That looks fantastic. If that's allowed, I mean, the issue I have at the moment is let's say I'll go into a P&L account, drill down on a particular nominal codes, but then I'll take out a bunch of columns, change a bunch of columns, change some formatting so that negative numbers are red and brackets, which is my preferred formatting, for example. Yeah. And then I think, oh, let me go and look at another account. And yes, you can go in and change the customization and do it there, but if that keeps everything the same other than the nominal account it's on, I think that'd be very, very nice indeed. Like that.
Yeah, I can imagine that's the reason for it. When I was kind of seeing that, I couldn't really think of a proper use case for a proper use case other than keeping customization options. So yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed. What do you think, Johan?
It's got to be a more efficient way to do it, hasn't it? Because what we've got to do at the moment, press back to report summary, scroll down, find the line we want, and then click. Whereas now, I just go up there, drop down box, select the one I want, and go to it.
Yeah.
It's micro gains, it's micro efficiencies, but all the sportsmen in the world are looking for micro gains. The reason cyclists shave their legs is it saves them a second on a 24-mile lap or something. Like, we're all looking for these little mini seconds to be added up. So everything helps.
I don't think any of the three, but the three of us don't even shave our faces. That's let alone our legs. Is that? I'm guessing that's why Ash isn't here today, because he shaves his face. Yeah.
Speaking of Ash, though, I'm really looking forward to next time he's here, though, because I want to find out exactly what happened over in America. So, Paul that didn't know, he was the reason he couldn't with his last time was he was in America pushing his net tracker. So yeah, fingers crossed on that one. Wonderful. All right, so those two quick updates. Nothing major, is it? But I think, definitely opportunities to see what's going on going forward. Bit of a PSA announcement of the next one. It's just that we are having increasing amount of, especially for us and our clients, of clients having problems with being able to send invoices to particular email accounts. So what's happening is clients are creating their invoice, they're sending those invoices off, and then they're actually getting, or it's appearing that they're getting a bounce back for these emails. What appears to be from our testing, and we don't know if this is true, and when we spoke to QuickBooks, they couldn't give us a definitive answer either, but it appears to be anything where there isn't a kind of more, what's a better phrase for it, more standardized domain. So if it was sending to an account like Gmail, for example, or Hotmail or AOL.com, if they were that, them sort of email accounts, it seems to be working absolutely fine. But if you were trying to go to John Smith at bobslade.com, then that suddenly seemed to be the issues for certain clients. It's definitely something that's causing issues for particular clients, because it seems to be that if they have one or two of the issues, it's starting to become more and more prevalent for them. And I think it's very, embarrassing sometimes for clients to then have to go and ask for a different email address to be able to get around the problem. But if you guys, have you kind of come across any issues or problems yourself? Is it widespread? Have you seen this problem? Johan, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I've got one client who's a butcher who's been in touch recently saying he's got this problem. So through your testing, because we've not had time to really test it, we've just flagged it with QuickBooks. Through your testing, are the receivers getting the email, or is it actually genuine? Is the notification true that it is not sending?
So from our testing, they're not getting an email whatsoever, and they're not getting the reminders either, which makes sense if they can't get the original one. So yeah, it's a case that they are completely in the dark, that there's even an invoice due at that point.
Cool. Okay. Not ideal.
No. And QuickBooks' official way of sorting this is you download the document and you send it to them elsewhere.
I was just going to say, let me guess, download and forward.
Yeah. Which they didn't even say to download or share the link, which I would have thought would be at least a little bit better, because at least you've got that bit of control, haven't you, of maybe having to update the invoice or whatever you need to do. So yeah, it's definitely an odd one. Charlie, do you want to go next, and then we'll go to we've had some questions and points in the thing.
It's not been a particular issue. I mean, on occasion I've had customers of clients say they haven't received invoices. I suspect it's just ended up in their spam filter and they haven't noticed and didn't bother looking properly. I mean, in terms of if it is a serious problem for anybody and it occurs regularly, then I suppose, not if you've got too many customers, but if you've got a short number of fixed customers you invoice regularly, I suppose you could set up rules in Outlook so that every time you send the invoice from QuickBooks, you make sure you get copied, and when it comes in, you set a rule that says if from QuickBook, I can't remember what the address is that they use, comes in, and if the other addressee is Fred at abc.com, forward it to Fred at abc.com, and if it's Bob at xyz.com, forward it to Bob. I mean, that'd be a rather torturous process, but that would be a way to automate it if it went on for too long.
QuickBooks ringing up to say, oi.
Yeah, no, I was trying to stop that ringing, so yeah, let me get rid of that phone.
Yeah, but yeah, and it's one of those, isn't it, where it's it seems like how has it suddenly happened? I think that's one of the things that's the question that my clients keep coming back with is why, how has this suddenly been a problem to come along?
What would be interesting to work out is the email addresses that have got custom domains, so like onpointaccounting.co.uk, is it Google related accounts that are bouncing, or is it Microsoft accounts that are bouncing?
Yeah.
Who is the provider of these accounts that are provided? Or is it a general blanket of everyone? Because if it's just one, we can narrow down the problem and try and work it out. But yeah, my only thought is it's been reported to a email server provider as junk email too many times, and now it's blocking them generically.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. Which, if that's the case, that's going to be a much, probably a longer problem to solve, isn't it? Charlie, do you want to carry on with your point?
Well, I was just going to say, just saying. I think it's a very good point. So the invoice are being emailed out from QuickBooks at notification.intuit.com, and it's possible that Microsoft 365 or G Suite, Google, or one of the others are highlighting that domain as problematic and are blocking all emails sent from that address. Is quite possible. Yeah.
So to update from our side as well, from our practice, we have one client out of all of them where, for whatever reason, the email won't go to. Now, this was before I was aware of it being such a prevalent issue, but I was under the impression at that point that was the client issue. There was a problem with the client's email address, but it sounds like it's not. And yeah, it's going to be something we're going to have to just keep an eye on, I think, going forward and find a solution for. But then I know other clients where they've, their clients are clients of really big organizations, like, for example, BT.com, for example. It's those BT.com ones that are problematic. So yeah, it's going to be a tricky one for them to find. But yeah, I think all we can do on this one is maybe make sure we put a lot of feedback in, because last time we checked, QuickBooks weren't really aware of the problem or didn't really see it as a problem. So I think the more feedback and the more opportunities we give to care, they're going to be able to put that up. I've had a few comments coming through. So Paul's here. Hi, Paul. How's it going? Rachel's in the house as well. And also congratulations, Rachel, for getting married over the last couple of days. Looked like an absolute amazing time. Paul asking if we shave our legs on a separate note there. And then also about the whitelisting, and we don't get the opportunity in QuickBooks. And we don't have any options. So it's nothing we've done wrong. It's not when our clients done wrong. It definitely is.
There might be a feature that can be built by QuickBooks though, if this is going to start becoming a problem as more and more advanced filters are being put on. So with our AML software, we can link it into our Microsoft account, so that the emails are being sent through our Microsoft account. So there's none of this QuickBooks invoicing. The invoice can come from accounts at onpointaccounting.co.uk. Now that would potentially, if the issue's been with the QuickBooks address has been flagged as spammy, that could resolve this problem.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if you've ever, back in the day, forgot to put on a client's email or something and actually been the one receiving those emails come back, and that to solve that issue. So we've had it before where, clients email to say XYZ's not working or whatever. And then it's come straight to us as opposed to the client. So that would solve that issue as well. And then Paul's agreeing with you there, Charlie, about the forwarding option and bringing the forwarding in. So yeah, I think that could be a solution all around that could help. But yeah, one to keep an eye on. And again, please, what I would say to people, if they are experiencing the same problem, please just let Case know, the help team know, and then at least then we can start escalating the problem and get it up there. Speaking of problems, great segue into the next section, or the next part we're going to be talking about. So some of us got emails this month about a problem with the VAT reporting last month. So what was happening was, in certain situations, it seems to be cash accounting clients only, but do check to make sure. But it seems that cash accounting clients were, for whatever reason, not reporting correctly any exceptions in that particular period, and the exceptions weren't appearing at all, therefore not being included on the return. It's quite a serious one here. Two things kind of come to mind for me. First of all, Really impressed that the QuickBooks were quick enough to get the information out there. So we were getting emails pretty much instantly, which is good to see. It's not nice it happened in the first place, but at least those emails were out there to give us an opportunity. We're not 100% sure that yet if those exceptions are going to roll over to next period, but we'll know by next month because we've got a monthly client that's been affected. So we'll be able to feedback on that one. And hopefully, fingers crossed, that's all we'll need to do is we just forward them over to the next one. But it does kind of bring back something that we stopped doing, which was reconciling VAT accounts. We did it historically for the last probably 3 years or so prior to the last couple of years, because back in the day in Sage Line 50, you had no choice. You had to keep reconciling your account, otherwise you'd be in trouble. But maybe we've got to start going back to reconciling VAT accounts, maybe. But yeah, what's everyone's thought? Jan, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think we've had 3 clients flagged on it. But as you say, not only have they flagged that there's an issue, they've emailed us and flagged it really quickly. They've given us a really not good email, which explains the problem, explains the solution so we can action it and deal with it. We're not sat there like you get told, oh, there's been a problem with this. Then everyone's sat there trying to work out, right, how do I fix this?
Yeah.
The solution was there. And because we got such a good email from them, we just forwarded it to the client saying, look, we've been made aware of this. These are the actions we're taking in line with the email below from QuickBooks. And it all looks very official, and it takes any concept of blame from us away. QuickBooks have taken it on their shoulders and dealt with it. And they've given us the material. That means we can go to our clients and say, look, there's been a problem. It's been addressed. We're taking the actions required, and QuickBooks have accepted responsibility. So it doesn't tarnish our relationship with the client. It just shows us as proactive and fixing a problem.
Yeah, agreed, definitely. Charlie, what's your views?
Well, that sounds very good. I no longer have any cash basis VAT clients. I moved the last ones over to accruals a couple of years ago. I've never been a big fan of cash base unless you really have a business with cash flow problems. You mentioned about reconciling the VAT returns though each quarter. When you say that, do you just
controls? I mean, sorry.
Yeah. So we do that anyway. We definitely do that. So it's one of the reasons why I may have mentioned on these groups before, but why I get frustrated that QuickBooks posts the VAT journal between VAT control and VAT suspense on the date you happen to do the job rather than the quarter end, because and for that reason I change the date of the journal each time. I reset it to the quarter end, because then you can see at that point that the VAT control account is zeroed out, and you can also see that at any future date, if the balance is previously is different to zero, that means you've added in some additional transactions prior to the last VAT quarter end, and hopefully that balance as at the previous quarter end will match what's in your current figure for exceptions for the next quarter. So you've always got a permanent, ongoing way of very quickly assessing whether your VAT return does reconcile just by looking at the figure for exceptions on the VAT return page compared to what the balance was at the previous quarter end.
Yeah, so I mean, we would always reconcile it for like a year end or set of accounts or anything, but for quarterly, monthly ones, we just stopped doing them. It was just one of those where we were doing it every single time, never having a problem. So it was like, well, let's kill that control and just focus our attention on other bits. So yeah, but maybe I think it's a lesson to everyone, isn't it? You can't be complacent with these things. It's technology is technology. At the end of the day, there could be issues and problems, and that's why we do the controls. So yeah, I think we'll just start reconciling again just to get them done. And now that we've got those fancy new reports, cash accounting reconciliation can never be easier, thanks to one of the best updates we've had in a very long time, which was the cash on the debtors and creditors, which is a year old now, which is scary to think. Brilliant. The next topic we got, I think this was you, wasn't it, Johan, who brought this one to the table. QBO's got a new payroll dashboard. Do you want to talk about that one?
It is on its way. Yeah, we all got the email came out literally about an hour and a half ago. I don't know if anyone remembers, a couple of months ago, QuickBooks put out feedback on their Facebook group and on email saying, what would accountants' interest be in a payroll dashboard? Is it something of interest? And it would show all your clients, when the payrolls were last run, whether those went well to HMRC, pension providers, journals, and it's mainly powered by QuickBooks Advanced Payroll, where we've got all this insight. But the beta sign up went live this afternoon, so that is ready for people to go. So yeah, definitely one we'll be looking at just from a leadership point of view. My leadership team will be reviewing that to make sure we're keeping on top of things at a glance.
Is that's just for advanced payroll, not for standard payroll, is it?
I don't know. I need to check. I think the plan was to be able to bring in both.
Okay.
I
see
heard
it all
that,
from there.
maybe it's changed. Yeah.
But yeah, they've moved pretty quickly on this because they were having meetings while I was at head office for QuickBooks back in June. So I think in the space of 3 months, they've gone from testing the audience's reaction to the idea to plugging it in and building it and beta testing it. So yeah, hopefully by the time we have a session, we'll be able to do a live demo of it.
Excellent. I know, well, I can imagine with anything to do with payroll, it's still going to be very much in that annual cycle, isn't it? Where realistically, they want to be making sure it's ready for next April, don't they? Because that's technically when most people will be moving over. So I can imagine that that's going to be part and parcel of why they're going so quick to get something up and running. And yeah, I think it's definitely needed, isn't it, to be competitive. I love the payroll solutions, both the basic and advanced, and I do use them. For our practice to run payrolls because I think it's probably the best one in terms of that sort of scenario. And we got a couple of clients using it as well, but we just find it difficult to run it as a bureau because it wasn't ever built like that. But I think now we're getting the tools to do it. Maybe that's a time to kind of reconsider it and bring it over because it'll make life so much easier, wouldn't it, if they are just all running all on the same software?
Yeah, definitely. And my hope is this is a step in the direction of a payroll bureau from QuickBooks. Whether it is or not, a very different matter, but that would be the ideal solution towards this all-in-one concept that we all like the idea of.
Definitely.
I mean, if they also then allowed you to give access to, if you're running a sort of payroll bureau thing, if you gave somebody access to just access the payroll part of those clients that didn't necessarily have access to the rest of the bookkeeping, which they may not need to see, that would also be an additional useful feature, I suppose.
You can do that on QuickBooks Advanced.
I suppose, yes, you'd create a special user, wouldn't you, and just give them, but then they'd log into a URL.
Any staff member that you add to QuickBooks Advanced Payroll can be classed as a manager, which would give them access to the ability to add and remove staff, timesheets, and whatever else you turn on in there.
Right, but they still have access to the whole of QuickBooks. They're not.
No.
So they'd log into a different URL.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, through the My Work.
Yes.
URL. So
yes, you can do that. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, and because I think my favorite part about core or the basic version of the payroll is it's my go-to if a client ever wants to do their own, because it's by far the simplest one out there to use in terms of just put some numbers in. They're relatively happy with it, and I think I've seen very few mistakes that clients have been able to make with it. So that's always a plus for me. So if we can get them, at least be able to support them by seeing that bureau kind of look to it as well, I think that could be quite a powerful element for us. And yeah, couldn't agree more, Paul, that the QuickBooks needs to do some serious work on journals with VAT, payroll, and CIS. Don't particularly how they don't post the name of the journal. And my personal pet peeve as well is find a way to get some reports on there as well would be useful automatically. Any more we want to talk about payroll? I think that's enough until we can see it properly, isn't it? I think that's a little teaser going forward.
I was hoping to have a bit of an info screen or a demo for you, but that link I've been sent is going to sorry, we're not working link.
Too many people are excited about it and click that link. That's what it was. Beat us to it. Charlie, you wanted to talk about or go back over a previous topic, but the business network. I think we've got a bit more detail about it, haven't we? And it kind of looks like probably more than we thought originally. Do you want to have a bit of a chat about that one?
Yeah, it's something QuickBooks launched in the US and I think Canada as well.
Yeah, yeah.
The idea is that I think initially only QuickBooks users. I mean, if it becomes ubiquitous for any software, Xero and all the rest of it as well would be lovely in the future. But basically, the idea is within the software, you would tell QuickBooks you were happy to join their network, and then any of your suppliers or customers that were doing business with you, when they add you as a, so let's say my business, I've added myself as happy to join the network. If you're then my supplier or customer and you add me in your QuickBooks, when you start, at the moment you start typing in a new name, if it's not already in your database, already within your QuickBooks file, it invites you to create a new name. But what this now does is it looks further, not only at your own database with your file, but is that company in the overall network? And if it is, you can pick that. And what that means is that first of all, it will fill in the address and contact details, telephone number, email address, and so on. But it's a live connection as well. So if, for example, your business changes address, then anyone who is your customer or supplier, when they look at the record for your company within their own QuickBooks file, they'll see your new address, your new email address, your new telephone, whatever it is, which is very useful. But then it goes further, that if I send a sales invoice to somebody else who is within the QuickBooks network, that instead of them just receiving a PDF invoice, they will get an electronic notification within their QuickBooks file saying Charlie Khan has sent you an invoice. They can review it on the screen and then choose to add it directly. So it won't add it directly. They still have the ability to view it first and check they're happy to add it. But it then gets added automatically. They don't need to manually type all that data in, which is rather good. I think I'm just looking at their page on it. Well, look, I can't remember. I think there's a few other bits that may come into it. I can't remember. What would be lovely, I suspect, would be for the future is if and I don't know if this would ever happen, but if the big software companies got together and were happy to share, the competition rules may not like me doing this, but to share this data, because then it becomes very useful. The ability to send an invoice to somebody, no matter whether he's in QuickBooks or Xero or Free Agent or whatever it is they're using, and the stuff goes straight in. And even further, I suspect in the future, if they did that, you could also give it a generic code, maybe an IXBRL tagging code or something like that. So if I'm sending you stationery, if I'm sending you professional services or whatever it is, you can then within your own software say whenever an invoice comes in that's tagged with this particular type of code, this is the nominal account I want it to go to. When it comes in with that code, I want it to go to that nominal account, because that then starts to create this, maybe it does bookkeepers out of a lot of work, but it creates the future where so much of the stuff becomes automated.
Yeah, it's that blockchain idea, isn't it? Which
yeah.
the utopia that we're kind of all hope one day will kind of come to fruition in some way or another. I know Xero's kind of got a similar sort of aspect to this, haven't they? You send an invoice from Xero to another Xero and it kind of interacts and they kind of have the opportunity to come in. So it definitely is something that I think is going to be a benefit to everyone. I'm really excited for this to be something that just comes just so we can have a little play around and see how much people get to grips with it and kind of bring it on, because the concept of it is a really clever concept, isn't it? The fact they're calling it a business network and they're bringing that in and trying to show it as more than just a bookkeeping solution. And when you think about it from like the fact they've now got MailChimp and they've got kind of that sort of, they're starting to build that nice little ecosystem, aren't they, of kind of an essential tool more than anything else for small businesses. What do you think, Jan?
Yeah, I mean, I'd point out I don't enter invoices by typing them in anymore. I use Dext, but minor detail. I think it is it's that next evolution from Dext, isn't it? That it all goes into one central location, and someone updates an address, and that updates everywhere. You know, one true source of information. That'd be fantastic. Skeptic in me tells me it's never going to happen as nicely as we want it to, purely because we're all on different softwares. You know, there's Xero, there's QuickBooks. We all know none of these guys talk nicely to each other. Are they? And then we've got to consider GDPR rules, etc. So So it might be that we can use the business network for limited companies sharing details with each other because that's publicly available information. But as a sole trader, does it breach GDPR that?
No, because they're choosing to
it's everywhere.
They're choosing to add their name to the network. So it's not, Intuit isn't just automatically putting you into it. You as a sole trader could choose whether or not to have your details and which parts of your details.
At which point, as soon as one person opts out, you've got a missing link in the chain. So it becomes, it's not bulletproof. Like you've got a leak in your system. So at that point, right, just because Joe Bloggs didn't want to have his information in this business network, I've still got to use Dext for when his invoices come in. So yeah, whilst there's human choice involved and people's lack of trust in databases and softwares, I think it's a nice solution to have for those that use it, but it's not going to be the only solution. We're going to have to still rely on the Dexts, auto entries, HubDocs, and whoever else, other providers are available on the market.
Yeah,
I suspect that particularly once MTD for income tax is ubiquitous and it's going to impact everybody turning over £10,000 a year or more, I suspect that further down the line, HMRC may even impose requirements, for example, for every invoice that's sent out to have a unique ID. So given that the software is all connected to the MTD network anyway, you could imagine them forcing Intuit and Xero and all the rest of them that when you generate an invoice, it pulls a unique ID down from HMRC or from some GovUK database that's completely unique in the country. And then when I send you my invoice, first of all, it's got a unique ID, which will be tracked then by your software, which means that HMRC could then match up the unique ID from the purchase invoice in your system to the sales invoice in my system, make sure that you're claiming what I declared as income and your input VAT is the same as my output VAT, and algorithms can do all of that on the fly. But you could then also potentially have a facility where, again, it's back to IXBRL codes or similar, where again, each invoice is tagged with something. And it's up to a business then as to what nominal code they want to map each tag to, so they still have full control of their own chart of accounts. But you could, I mean, this will be some years away, I imagine, sort of, 5-10 years away at least. But I could imagine that coming down the tracks. So whether it's just, I mean, I think if Xero and QuickBooks, are starting this process, it's just I think a few steps along a route to complete automation.
Yeah, so effectively we'll have HMRC as the blockchain, which couldn't be any scarier, could it, when you think about it? I don't know if there's anyone worse out there.
Behind barcodes, wasn't it? Every item available in the supermarket is going to have its own individual barcode. I can attest to you now, based on my experience in retail, that never happened. And it's meant to be in place for the last 40 years. Everyone's going to have, every item gets its own unique barcode. When you're using smaller suppliers, there's duplicate barcodes out there. The amount of times I used to scan a teddy bear for £5 in a gift shop and it came up as a sticker rock for 50p. 2 different suppliers used the same barcode, coincidentally.
I suspect that the difference is that in that situation, retailers, it's up to a retailer to decide their own barcode system, and they can create it and they buy them from somewhere.
Yeah.
If MTD is going to force all the software to be online anyway, so if the software therefore has to go to HMRC or somewhere, some online repository, to pluck and that is the same one, then it will be unique, because they have to go to a single, what QuickBooks likes to call the single source of truth. There'll be a single place where they go to get the unique number. So, but that's a good point, Johan.
Yeah, it'll be interesting times, and yeah, maybe that is what the end goal for MTD was all about. We knew it was like it's softly at the beginning, wasn't it? It was very much a case of
it's like invoice formatting. Like, how many times have we spoken as an industry, as the government spoken about standardizing our invoice format, the layout, the detail, the data on there, and it's never happened. There's not enough people going in one direction with it.
I've never come across that. Is that necessary to standardize formatting?
It was discussed a while ago to simplify as part of MTD. The VAT and stuff was a standardization of the layout of, because how many times do you look at a receipt and go, right, is that giving me gross or net? Is it, which numbers which, etc. What details missing?
Well, as I suspect this will all go to, and MTD will accelerate this, I suspect, will all go to computer readable data. So how it appears to the human eye on a PDF or on the screen won't really matter in the end. It'll all be computer readable data, and then each field will have this is net, this is VAT, this is gross, this is the date, and so on. I suspect it's where it will go.
And as Paul's just said in the comments, that's all well and good coming up with these concepts for the UK, but as soon as you bring in international sales, it sinks the boat.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting times ahead, but let's hope they bring the network out so we can at least play around with it and see if there's we used to have a similar sort of kind of concept in QuickBooks, didn't we, where it was connected to company's house at the beginning, and it kind of gave us that opportunity to bring data in. So yeah, hopefully it will make that bit easier. Johan, back to you. We've got apparently there's a bit of a celebration to happen, isn't there? Was there something to do with it, sir, and something to happen? I might have a button to press as well when you
Good
say
news. So last week, HMRC certified and confirmed the first ever fully submitted successful MTD ITSA filing.
And one sec. Carry on.
So that's good news. Like, the beta is working. There's more people going on it. But what's even more exciting for the QuickBooks users out there is the first successful filing was made by QuickBooks and a QuickBooks firm. It wasn't me. It was Broadbent's Accounting Solutions. They were on the beta, and they have filed the first successful MTD ITSA return to HMRC, which is great. So the concept that QuickBooks have built out is proven, it works, and now it's just a case of putting the volume through and testing the HMRC side of things from a volume point of view. But yeah, Iris were bragging for years that MTD VAT, they were the first to be ready for it and first to be certified by HMRC. So QuickBooks gets the MTD, it's bragging rights.
And ironically, for Iris, they only filed 4 returns in the in cash flow, whatever it was at the time. So yeah, it was really great bragging rights. No, it's good news, isn't it? And the thing is, we didn't get any feedback of how, like, what it looked like or anything like that. Yeah, it's all under NDA and everything else, which is a shame. But as soon as we can get that information, though, I'm really interested to kind of go through and be able to share that. I think people just want to see what it looks like, don't they, from the software side of things? And I think that'll, as soon as they've seen how simple and how easy it is to do, I think that'll definitely make people a lot more confident with it going forward.
Yeah, I think take the approach that has been taken to VAT submission, where it states this is your quarter, this is the amount of income, this is the amount of expenses, this is your profit, error check and file. I think if you take the VAT format, you will not be far wrong. But yeah.
And that's been made simpler for the smaller businesses, because HMRC announced a couple of weeks ago, I think, that they were continuing the 3-line accounts process for businesses turning over under 85,000. So for people who don't know, so on an income tax return, there's nothing to do with companies, but for a sole trader on an income tax return, if your turnover is less than 85,000, you don't need to break out your costs by category. You can just show your total income, your total costs, and the net profit. And they announced in the last couple of weeks, I think, that the same will apply for your MTD quarterly filing and your end of period statement, whatever it's called, the EOPS, which is the new equivalent of the tax return.
Yeah, my understanding is that has come out of the blue, and none of the software companies have built anything for that yet, and they're considering whether they will or not, because ultimately, if you use QuickBooks already, you're already categorizing things.
Yeah,
it doesn't really need just 3 lines. You've got the information there. You may as well submit it, because if you flag a HMRC system for a check, the first thing they'll look at, you've only sent us 3 lines, right, now give us the breakdown. They'll expect you to have it whether you've got it or not. So you may as well just send it and save one less potential.
Well, if you're in QuickBooks and things, yes. I suspect, though, that will all be most useful for people who are using the various other solutions that are either starting to come out now or will be coming out.
Yeah.
The ones where, for example, they just connect to your bank and just allow you to quickly say, this is personal, this is business. And instead of then allocating that business category, you just use it like a Tinder process. You go, swipe left personal, ignore it, swipe right. No, you wouldn't know, none of swipe right for swipe right for business, and then you won't need to go any further and categorize it at all. So I suspect it'd be very, very useful for those very small businesses that don't need something as complex as QuickBooks.
Normally you refer to things as gamifying them, but I think
well, you can see where my head's at, can't you?
Yeah. I did use that joke of Tindifying it when we were sharing it, when we used to go around and actually show the mileage app. But yeah, so I think it is a thing. Well, I hope it's a thing anyway.
It is now.
Yeah, Charlie's made it official, so I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I tend to agree with that, Charlie, because I think where I see this being an opportunity is the banks and everything. How they're obviously going to bring out some MTD software, your Starling and your Revolutes and whatnot. I think they're the sort of people which would absolutely love the idea of just being able to do 3-line accounts, send them in, job done, and it just keeps those smaller people, compliant, doesn't it? And your rental properties and people like that, I think, Coconuts of the world and Hammocks of the world, they're gonna jump at this sort of chance, aren't they? But yeah, again, I think Jan's also right in the fact that QuickBooks Zero or those ones that we're used to, let's just send that whole on, and let's hope this is an opportunity to keep QuickBooks Self-Employed around. So just put it out there, QuickBooks, this is your chance to get rid of that software solution. So yeah, let's hope that the idea of having just 3 lines doesn't keep QuickBooks Self-Employed around for longer than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Anything else on it, everybody? We're all good on that? Yeah. Awesome. All right, so 10 minutes left for the round table discussion. So this is a relatively new section that we brought to the course here, to the podcast. And the idea here is to give us an opportunity just to talk about something that might be a little bit more topical, or just something that we just want to talk about and get opinions of the experts in the room. So I posed this question to the guys, and I said to them, what features would you like to see next if you had one feature that was allowed? And let's try and think outside the box. Let's hopefully think of something that's not been announced and something that you've not really seen coming forward. But I'm going to start with you, Charlie. What was your one feature that you think should be introduced next into QuickBooks Online?
Oh, I'll never think about this.
Okay,
let's go. Come back to me. I'll have a think. Come back to me. I'll have to think about that. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No worries.
So
you got one feature. One.
I've mentioned one of mine already, so that's fine. That's the payroll bureau. That would be amazing. We kind of know what's coming for tax, for MTD and stuff like that, and books to tax and stuff like that's been spoken about at Accountex. So that was really good. What I'd love to see, I don't know if anyone else has seen the product yet, is Intuit are beta testing a product called Accelerate in the US and Canada. And it is a virtual accounting office for all intents and purposes. Your clients can go to a landing page. They can see your diary and book a meeting like you can with Calendly and other such softwares. They can book and pay for consultations. They can do Zoom meetings. It's not Zoom, but it is a video meeting on this platform. And in that technology, they have built in automatic note-taking software. So there's an AI in there that's making all the notes. And I think that's a fantastic virtual presence for us to have. And I would love for that to be built and baked straight into QuickBooks Online Accountant software for us. So that we have our client dashboard, we've got Accelerate, it builds it all in, and it kind of goes to that concept video we saw in 2018 at QuickBooks Connect with the yoga instructor whose landlord tries to turf her out. So she jumps on a video call within the app on QuickBooks. The accountant looks at it all, comes back to her and says, look, you can try and rent some of these places that look like they've been vetted from Zoopla or Rightmove, or you could go and buy these places and your cash flow will be this much better off, and here's the modeled cash flow. and that's all been done in like an hour or something. So I think that tool baked into QuickBooks could be really powerful. So I'd love to see that.
Yeah, great idea there, and a good one to bring on. I think the only one I was kind of skeptical of it when they first kind of brought that in was, are people going to be wanting to kind of? I suppose they wouldn't need to. I was thinking about, do they need to install other software? So is it going to be another? Because I don't know what it's like for you, but you try and take someone out of Zoom or Teams or whatever you're using, it's kind of a bit of a nightmare for them, isn't it? But I suppose if they've already got QuickBooks kind of installed, that's the end goal, isn't it? It just goes through QuickBooks anyway.
How many people now do their FaceTime through WhatsApp?
Yeah,
because it's a feature in it's baked into WhatsApp. I think if there's a baked-in video call option and instant messaging option in QuickBooks app and dashboard on the website, then it'll be used. I think it's a really good opportunity to enhance our service offering. But you're right, yeah, they'll need to prove their validity of security and stuff like that, because obviously very sensitive topics are being discussed.
And if I could add just one feature to that as well, I don't know if you remember back in the day, but we used to have the option to be able to share screen with clients. You know how you put the code in and bring it in. If they could bake that into that as well, there's your what you call it, your PNT calls, your new client calls. Absolutely brilliant at that point, isn't it? Just share screens and let's see how many transactions you really do have, and instead of telling us it's 5 when it's 250. So
like if you go on the Pro Advisor listing on someone's looking for an accountant, they go to the Pro Advisor listings, and someone can book a discovery meeting in your diary from that. How cool is that?
Yeah. I love it. Absolutely love it.
And also, for example, if you're doing the month end review process, and in there you've got the ability to send questions to clients. Again, if you've got the ability that the client can then click on and arrange a call with you directly in product, where you can both look at the same transactions together and say, well, what's this one for? What's that one for? And you're both looking at them. So I think that'd be fantastic.
The Ask the Client feature that's already in Bookkeeping Review, I think we all discussed a few months ago, and we were saying how cool that will be if that becomes into the app. And my understanding is that is the long-term vision, is that you will get a notification in your QuickBooks app that your accountant's asked you a question on a transaction. You'll be able to see it and respond to it in the QuickBooks app on your phone.
Love it.
Right.
That is that's the roadmap for that.
Awesome. Great feature there, Johan. So, Charlie, have you had time to think of yours?
Yeah, nothing quite so as exciting as that. Not quite so much so forward thinking, but something I've wanted for a long time. It's quite dull thing, but on VAT is I don't often praise. I mean, Xero is a good product, but I don't often praise it in comparison to QuickBooks. I think QuickBooks is better than Xero in most cases. But the one thing I really, really have liked for a long, long time in Xero is the way they do their VAT report. And I really, really dislike the way the QuickBooks does its VAT report. It is absolutely horrible. And so I wish somebody at Intuit would look at the Xero report and go, well, we could spend about an hour programming that and churn it out, because I cannot believe it would take very long to program it. I mean, so to have, for example, what I would like to see in the VAT report would be all of the income listed together with a column that adds up the net sales and a column that adds up the output VAT. You don't need to look at those same report twice as you do at the moment, and then breaks it down as Xero does very nicely. Look, here's the 0%, here's the 5%, here's the 20%, here's the no VAT, here's the exempts, etc. And also, and this is unforgivable in QuickBooks' VAT reports, includes the exception items as well in the VAT report, and includes that in the sort of summary VAT 100 total thing. But dear Mr. Intuit, please look at the Xero VAT report and bring it in. That would be my simple. I think it's about an hour or two's programming by somebody in California, I suspect.
Well, actually, I think you should watch this space, because this should be something that's been announced relatively soon. So you should be able to get the news on that one. And it's exciting. So let's put a pin in that one before I get myself into trouble. But I do think you're right, though. I think the ability to bring in some more kind of comparable reporting, just to give confidence, isn't it, that what you press submit is right. And I think some of the goodness from the VAT error checker should be in there as well. I don't know why we can't kind of capture that somehow to say, look, this is what we've checked, this is what it's okay at, and go from there. Because I love the VAT error check. It's one of the best things. It still needs work. There's still extra bits that I think it can do to really shine. But I think as a concept of just checking that data before it goes is an absolute dream. So if we could kind of capture that and have that in the report as well, it'd be beautiful to do as well.
I would just, if I've got 2 seconds on the VAT error checker, something I would like to see would be the ability that if there's a certain type of transaction that always gets coded a particular way, bank charges without something like that, the ability to say to the software, these will always be coded this way and you don't need to highlight them for me every quarter. That would be a nice way to reduce the number of potential errors each time that come up. But you don't need to waste time looking at things that you look at every quarter and you know they're correct.
Okay, what you're saying. Yeah. You're right. Wonderful. Oh, I think those two are great little features that I think we'll bring it. You got anything to say on that one, Johan, before we move on to my feature on the VAT reports?
No, I think they're all good ideas. I mean, I don't, not being an accountant background and being more of a business owner background, I don't get overly hung up on reports and VAT reports and what is and isn't included. I just think, what's the number in box 5? That's really what really matters to the clients. That's what they really care about. They don't care whether the report gives us confidence in its data quality, etc. And for us to understand, they just want to know what box 5 is and why is it so bloody high.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
because you're doing well is my answer.
Sometimes because I do well.
Yeah.
Mine, though, I was going to be really controversial and say, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have a nice little bank that all connected beautifully and attached to QuickBooks and everything else? But I thought probably not go down that route. So I'm probably going to steal what Ash would have brought up, to be honest, because I know it's a pet peeve of his. And it's not so much a new feature, but it's an enhancement to a feature that's already there. Because we did have a long period of having great innovation in the product, and the product was changing rapidly at all time. Every time you log in, there was something new, it seemed, and we're going through a really good state of the product really, really enhancing. And this was probably down to MTD that's kind of slowed down now. There's a lot of resources kind of gone into making sure that works, and we've kind of seemed to be less enhanced or less new products and more refined of the product itself, has it, or less new features and refinement of the features that are already there. And I know a lot of it is down to the fact that QuickBooks do like to have the kind of idea of just doing let's get something out there, see if people use it. If they don't use it, then we don't, there's no point putting more development time into it. And I get that concept. But for me, I'd love to see the cash flow forecast just fleshed out and properly utilized to what it needs to be. Like, let's have the option to bring in those VAT numbers in there so we can see the VAT numbers as they come into when they're due and how much that's going to affect the cash flow. Let's give us an opportunity to put in other tax implications that are going to be in there as well, and give us a chance to bring that in. And let's just really flesh it out, the scenarios and everything else. I know we can push it to a third-party app, and there's some great apps out there that I do really like, but there's something about just being in a client's meeting and jumping into that cash flow area and just talking about numbers there and then, and what how that's going to affect and what's going to happen. I really do kind of like that, and I know that with the banking side of things, that's what was going to happen. There was going to be a big enhancement to the cash flow, and it was all going to flow through with the ability to kind of look and see and have opportunities to move maybe when you're going to make a payment to something so that it can actually work and all that sort of stuff. And I just want that utopia and that idea to still come to fruition, because it's one of the best parts about being an accountant, isn't it? We get to advise, we get to talk, and we get to plan, the opportunity for clients to maybe take on a new project or improve here or improve there. And cash flow is always so important to those conversations. So giving us those tools to really go in there and improve on that, I think is really important. And I think that cash flow, it was a great starting point, but it's had no proper, enhancement to it for a while. So yeah, I'd love that to kind of be fleshed out to a fully viable product, not just a almost viable product. So yeah, any comments or points you want to make on that one, guys?
I would have. I mean, that's a really, really good idea, and I completely agree with that. Which triggered a thought in my head that would be nice if they added in a basic credit control tracking system.
Okay.
So all they would need to do, because I mean, there are third-party tools that do this stuff extremely well. And if you're chasing hundreds or thousands of invoices, then you're going to need a third-party tool. QuickBooks is never going to be powerful enough to deal with that kind of stuff. But you've got the ability at the moment. The only thing you can really do is to automate reminders. So you can send out reminders before the due date or after the due date. You can send out up to 3 of them. But if, for example, you could have the ability to track whether it's against a specific sales invoice or against that customer, phone Bob on the 5th of January, he said the check's in the post, or whatever it is. And then when you run there'll be as well as the standard debtors report, you can run a different type of debtors report, a sort of debtors credit control report that have these extra fields within them that you could see what was chased, when it was chased, and things like that. Whether reminders have gone out, who you spoke to, all that kind of thing, at both the overall client level or customer level and at individual invoice level. I think that would be very, very useful and enable, particularly, also for those accountants who are working with clients. Maybe it's, the accountants have been asked to do credit control. Instead of spending what can be a lot of money using a third-party tool, and that's great when you've got a client that wants you to spend hours and hours a month chasing 100 or 200 customers. But when they only issue 10 or 20 invoices a month, 18 of which are paid on time, and there's only 2 to chase, you're not going to pay for third-party tools. So to have the ability built into QuickBooks at a very basic level, I think would be very, very useful, very powerful.
Yeah, and that's what we wanted the banks to be, didn't we? To give us that option, give us that new revenue stream, give us that chance to help clients. It was all too good to be true. Johan, any final points on that one?
No, I really like that idea for having notes on the credit control side of things, and even when I send out credit control balances to my team members for them to tackle with their clients, as each client manager looks after their own credit control, I send them an Excel sheet from QuickBooks, and then they send me an Excel sheet back with their notes attached. Well, actually, if that was just all built in
the system,
that'd be much easier.
Yeah, you're right. I suppose you can't. I was going to say you could use work papers to try and replicate it, but it doesn't quite work, does it? So it's not going to be a clean solution. So having something like that, I think that's a great idea. Paul came up with a feature I think we've all been chatting for a while. CIS payslips actually work and actually do what they're supposed to do. Even now, it's always kind of that awkward moment when you talk to clients about using CIS on QuickBooks. You're like, you might have to take a step back though if you're kind of thinking about having the payslips working. But that's a rant for another day. Thank you, Paul. And if anyone else, what's that? Sorry.
Watch that space.
Watch that space. Yeah.
ePay has just launched CIS with payslips and annual reports and stuff all built in. Once it's in KeyPay, if they can convince the team at QuickBooks of the validity of it, they just turn it on for them. So it could be there in QuickBooks Advanced Payroll as a new place for CIS in the future, in theory. Based on what we've seen,
because the connection's already there, isn't it? It's already bringing the data in. So
just need to turn it on.
Theory. Yeah, it's there. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And that's and just with Paul saying that though, if you guys out there have any features that you would like to, it'd be a nice one to kind of let us know. We are going to be setting up some sort of Google form so you can start putting questions in, but also put some response in as well, and we can have elements like that and have you guys have more interactive on the show. Speaking of which, I think that's the end of today's show. So thank you very much for my team to be with me today, and it's been great to hear your thoughts and everything that's going on. Thank you for questions and comments that have come through from live chat. Remember, if you are looking to come and have a opportunity with us, then 4:30 on the first of a Wednesday is going to be when you come through, and we've already decided when the next one, haven't we? I may have already forgotten what that date was.
3rd of August.
10th
of August. There we are.
That's the second one. Yeah.
Slightly later time, then we're going to trial a different time of 5 o'clock to see how that goes forward. So 5 o'clock on the 10th of August. So hopefully you can join us there. Before we leave though, just a quick opportunity for the team to go around and explain what they've got coming up and where they can find you. So Charlie, do you want to go first of what's coming up and where people can find you?
Yeah, so I've got a group on Facebook. If you if you're not a member already, it's for QuickBooks Pro Advisors. Just trying to find the address. Where is it? So you basically just look for QBOA user group within Facebook. And then when you apply to join, do make sure you answer I think this just asks 2 or 3 questions just to say that you're a QuickBooks Pro Advisor or not, whether you're an accountant in practice or not. And it's a very useful forum for Pro Advisors to discuss issues related to QuickBooks and similar topics. So please do join us.
Definitely highly recommended. Johan, what have you got coming up and where can people find you? And I know before you do though, I must say your videos are starting to come even better than before. And my little mini game I like to play is where's the Cresco caterpillar going to be? A cactus going to be in this video. So I like playing that game and trying to figure out where it is.
Right, I'm going to make a game out of that then.
Go for it, Jan.
So I am on YouTube and LinkedIn. Just search Johan Gorey and it comes up everywhere. Like Google Johan Gorey. First 5 pages is just me. There's far too much content for you. But I'm also talking on a webinar for Reza Huda on the 26th of July. We're talking about offshoring accounting services. So that's due to be a panel discussion. So that should be really interesting for any accountants that are considering outsourcing and offshoring. But yeah, LinkedIn or YouTube.
Nice one. Definitely be interested in that one. Yeah, that'll be a definitely interesting topic to cover. Speaking of webinars, actually, you've reminded me, I'm on the Accounting Web webinar on 2 weeks from today, something like that. But if you look at the Accounting Web and Accounting Web, sorry, I've got that completely wrong. Accountancy Manager webinar series, their summer series. Definitely not on the Accounting Web. Well, I have been on the web, but not coming forward. But yeah, on their Accounting Manager webinar series, I'll be doing a bit on about digitalization and everything else. And they launched their first one today, and I wasn't able to catch it live, but I was able to kind of see some of the kind of bits. And it was a really good webinar series. So highly recommend getting yourself involved in that one. Even if you're not an Accounting Manager user, it is still a really good one to get involved with. And that is it for today. So thank you again, guys, for coming along for this one. We'll make sure that we are around for next month. And keep your eyes peeled to our relevant channels, because there is some news that may or may not be appearing in the next too distant future. So if that does happen, maybe we'll do a nice little impromptu QuickBooks Labs to talk about it, and keep your eyes on that one. Between now and then, though, do keep an eye out as well for the opportunity to put us questions and tell us anything that you want to talk about. And then we will look forward to seeing you in a month's time. So a goodbye from me, and I'm sure goodbye from everyone else.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Cheers all. See you soon.